My mother-in-law, Eleanor, beamed, holding up a sleek USB drive at our family BBQ, my boss, Mr. Henderson, just feet away. "Look what I found by Ethan's laptop, full of company secrets," she trilled, her voice dripping with Fox horror. I calmly suggested she plug it into her own laptop, one I'd recently debugged for her. The moment she did, a pre-set security alert blared from her speakers. "I'll alert Melzai du istificated. Deta Pibramet. So you are CEFE Lavide." Eleanor's face went from triumph to ashen mortification in a nanosecond. Mr. Henderson raised an eyebrow, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. "I'm Ethan Miller, a 34-year-old senior cybersecurity analyst, and that little stunt confirmed my worst suspicions." My composure was a steel firewall, but inside, the malware signature of her intentions was clear. Eleanor had long disapproved of me and my nerdy profession. There was the time she'd loudly wondered at a dinner if my work involved playing video games all day, or when she'd cornered my wife Olivia, suggesting I wasn't ambitious enough for a Vance, and her constant, subtle exclusion of me from conversations about important family business, always with Richard, her husband, nodding in agreement. For this BBQ, her scheming was palpable. She'd hovered near my work bag earlier, asking unusually pointed questions about a sensitive project, and then kept trying to draw Mr. Henderson into conversations about my stress levels. This wasn't just disapproval, it was a campaign. Olivia and I met 5 years ago at a Capture the Flag cybersecurity conference. She was a brilliant UX designer, captivated by the problem solving, and I was leading a workshop. We clicked instantly over lines of code and shared intellectual curiosity. We married a year later, a small ceremony, much to her parents' chagrin. Our early years were a blend of late, night coding sessions, cozy weekends, and mutual support for each other's demanding careers. One of our best moments was launching a small, encrypted messaging app we'd built together as a side project. The success was ours, shared and sweet. My background was solidly middle class, a world where success was earned through skill and dedication, not inherited. The Vances, however, were old money. Richard, Olivia's father, a retired CEO from a traditional manufacturing empire, viewed my tech career with thinly veiled disdain. To them, value was tied to tangibles, estates, legacy businesses, not the sterile world of data and algorithms I navigated. Our condo, comfortable and modern, was nothing compared to their sprawling ancestral home. This chasm in values was the breeding ground for their discontent. After the wedding, their interference became more pronounced. Eleanor would often call Olivia during my crunch times, subtly suggesting I was neglecting her, planting seeds of doubt about my commitment. I recall 3 specific instances vividly: the accidental deletion of my name from a family vacation booking, Richard's offer to help me find a real job in his old company, and Eleanor constantly comparing me to Olivia's more suitable ex-boyfriends. The BBQ incident, though, that was the declaration of war, the moment their passive disapproval escalated into active sabotage. That USB stick was meant to destroy my career. The following Monday, my investigation began. I analyzed the USB drive Eleanor had found. Its metadata clearly showed it was formatted on her personal desktop just hours before the BBQ. I also discreetly pulled the home network logs from their router. I'd set up their secure network years ago, with their permission, naturally. They revealed Eleanor's tablet accessing online articles about how to frame someone for corporate espionage the week prior. Then, using a data recovery tool on an old hard drive of hers I'd replaced, I found deleted notes outlining her concerns about my loyalty to my employer, phrased perfectly to sound like a worried mother-in-law, but clearly a blueprint for slander. One early challenge was a corrupted log file from their main PC, but a backup I'd insisted they implement held the key data. The initial evidence was damning: the USB's origin, the suspicious web searches, and the deleted, premeditated notes. It was a calculated attack. I needed an ally. Olivia, while loving, was still partly under her parents' influence, too quick to find excuses for them. I turned to her cousin, Sophia Hayes. Sophia was a sharp corporate lawyer, always the pragmatic one in the Vance family, and she'd seen Eleanor's manipulations before, though never this brazen. When I laid out the initial findings over a secure video call, her reaction was a mix of fury and grim understanding. "Ethan, this is beyond her usual meddling," Sophia said, her voice tight. "This has legal ramifications. Richard must be in on it." She recalled a story about how Richard and Eleanor had systematically ruined a young business partner of Richard's decades ago because he didn't fit their mage. Sophia's key contribution was twofold. She advised on how to legally and ethically gather more concrete evidence, and she knew a forensic accountant who owed her a favor. That accountant's involvement would prove crucial. Following Sophia's advice, I focused on irrefutable proof. The recovered notes were good, but deniable. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: their smart home system. Eleanor loved boasting about its features. I realized I still had admin access from the initial setup. I found archived audio snippets from their kitchen hub. One recording from the morning of the BBQ was Gold Eleanor talking to Richard. This flash drive idea is perfect. Henderson will see Ethan's a risk, and Olivia will finally realize he's a nobody. Richard's gruff agreement sealed his complicity. Another piece was a series of emails between Eleanor and a disreputable private investigator discussing digging up dirt on me, forwarded by a former disgruntled secretary of Richard's whom Sophia had tracked down. The emotional impact of hearing their voices, so callously plotting my downfall, was immense. A cold rage mixed with a sad resolve. My shock hardened into a quiet determination. There would be no outburst, no impulsive confrontation. I weighed my options, expose them publicly and risk alienating Olivia, or a more surgical strike. I chose precision. My plan was to dismantle their power within the family, using their own tactics of information control against them. The goal wasn't just to save my career, but to free Olivia. The first step was preparing Olivia. I couldn't just drop this bombshell. I started by showing her the least inflammatory evidence, the USB metadata, Eleanor's suspicious web searches, framing it as concerning digital activity. I documented everything, creating a meticulous dossier, with Sophia ensuring every piece was legally sound. We mapped out potential reactions from Eleanor and Richard, preparing counter-arguments for each denial. I approached Olivia carefully, one evening after work. I explained I'd found some things that worried me about her mother's recent actions, particularly concerning the USB. I showed her the metadata from the drive, linking its creation to Eleanor's computer. Mom, wouldn't she was just worried? Maybe. Olivia stammered, clearly distressed but also defensive. Over the next week, I slowly introduced more evidence, the deleted notes, then transcripts of the web searches. Each piece chipped away at her denial. Her initial disbelief morphed into confusion, then a dawning horror. The turning point was when I finally played her a carefully selected, short audio clip of Eleanor discussing the plan with Richard. Hearing her mother's voice, cold and calculating, broke something in Olivia. Tears streamed down her face. How could they? She whispered. That night, she didn't defend them. She just held my hand, a new, steely resolve in her eyes. What do we do, Ethan? She asked. She was finally my ally. The evidence was now a formidable arsenal: the USB drive's forensic analysis, network logs, recovered notes, the PI emails, Sophia's contacts' financial traces showing Eleanor paying the PI from a discretionary fund Richard controlled, and the damning smart home audio recordings. Sophia helped me structure this into a timeline, a clear narrative of premeditated sabotage. We decided the reveal would be at their home, a place they considered their fortress. The strategy: present digital evidence on a large screen, using my professional presentation skills to deliver it calmly and factually. Letting the data speak for itself. We'd show the encrypted log of Eleanor's online activity, the PI's invoices, the clear audio. It wasn't just about the BBQ. The PI's emails revealed attempts to dredge up dirt from my college years, even trying to bribe an old acquaintance for negative stories. Eleanor and Richard had also systematically isolated Olivia from friends they deemed unsuitable, including a kind, artistic boyfriend before me, whom they'd successfully driven away by insinuating he was unstable. Olivia, listening to these older revelations, remembered Eleanor's vague warnings, Richard's fatherly advice, that always led to her breaking things off. Their motive was stark, absolute control over Olivia's life, ensuring she remained within their gilded cage, married to someone they could mold. It was a pattern of behavior extending back years. The confrontation was set for the following Sunday. Olivia called her parents, her voice surprisingly firm, stating we needed to have a serious family discussion. The atmosphere at the Vance mansion was thick with unspoken tension. Richard was bluff, Eleanor played the gracious hostess, but her eyes darted nervously. Sophia was there, a silent, imposing presence. Richard began, Olivia, Ethan, glad you're here. There seems to be some misunderstanding about last week. Eleanor chimed in, yes, Ethan dear, I was only trying to protect your reputation. Her denials were swift. The USB was a misunderstanding, her web searches, idle curiosity. Any suggestion of malice was Than's paranoia, or him trying to drive a wedge in our loving family. Then I connected my laptop to their large living room TV. No misunderstanding, Richard, I said, my voice steady. For the next hour, the carefully curated evidence flowed. The USB analysis, the PI's file, the network traffic showing Eleanor's device accessing questionable sites right before trying to plant a phishing attempt on my work laptop months ago. With each damning slide, each audio clip of their voices, their faces paled. Eleanor's initial indignation gave way to sputtering denials, then to a stony, furious silence. Richard's bluster deflated, replaced by a grim set to his jaw. The audio recording of them discussing the BBQ plan, and Richard callously dismissing my career, was the final blow. Olivia, watching her parents, sat pale but resolute. All these years, she finally said, her voice trembling but clear, you've manipulated me, controlled who I could be with, what I should think. This stops now. Richard stared, stunned, as if he couldn't comprehend Olivia defying him. Eleanor finally broke, not with remorse, but with a hiss. He's turned you against us, Olivia, after all we've done for you. But the evidence was absolute. Their carefully constructed facade had crumbled. The sheer scope of their deceit, the years of subtle and not so subtle manipulation, their calculated attempts to ruin my career and control Olivia's life, it was all laid bare. The pain and betrayal were etched on Olivia's face, but also a newfound strength. Richard, ever the pragmatist when cornered, saw the game was up. Eleanor was in stunned, silent tears of rage and defeat. As a consequence, Olivia immediately took steps to transfer her trust fund, which Richard had managed to die and skimmed from, as Sophia's accountant friend had quietly confirmed, to her own independent control. They were to have no unsupervised contact with us or any future grandchildren. All major decisions would be ours alone. No apologies were offered by them, none truly expected. Their silence was their concession. Over the next few months, Olivia and I drew firm boundaries. Eleanor tried, of course, a tearful call to Olivia, an accidental bump in at a cafe. Each time Olivia, with me backing her, reiterated the new rules calmly but unyieldingly, scheduled calls only, no surprise visits, no discussions about my career or our personal life. It was draining, but necessary. Richard remained distant, perhaps shocked into a semblance of respect, or merely biding his time. He was a man used to power, and its loss, even in this familial sphere, clearly stung. Our marriage, forged in this fire, became unbreakable. The trust and understanding between Olivia and me deepened immeasurably. We started our own small cybersecurity consultancy, focusing on protecting small businesses from the kind of insidious attacks I'd experienced personally. Life settled into a new, healthier rhythm, filled with collaborative work, shared dreams, and the quiet joy of a home free from toxic interference. One evening, months later, Mr. Henderson, my old boss who'd witnessed Eleanor's stunt, called. He'd heard about our new venture and wanted to subcontract a major project to us. Always knew you were sharp, Ethan, he said, and gutsy. That contract was more than just business, it was an affirmation. The true victory wasn't about revenge, but about reclaiming our autonomy and peace. My anger had long since faded, replaced by a quiet strength. The Vances couldn't hurt us anymore. They still existed, a distant, cautionary tale in our lives, but their power over us was gone. We had built our own fortress, not of stone and wealth, but of love, trust, and shared principles. The ultimate wisdom I gleaned wasn't about fighting fire with fire, but about building something resilient enough that the flames couldn't touch it. Living well, on our own terms, was indeed the best and most satisfying outcome.